time for another edition of the Live from the Heartland show. I'm Michael James. I'm here for you, along with Emilio Davis, who is our engineer, and we have a little surprise guest. Katie Hogan's going to join us for the banter. We're here during the pandemic, so it's still on our Zoom. This is number 112 during the time of the pandemic, and we are recording on Friday, the 29th of July. It'll air live and stream both on WLUW 88.7 on Saturday, Tuesday, and Friday. And we're going to have a couple of really neat guests today. We're going to have our state representative, Kelly Cassidy, talking about all things political, from the local to the global. And then we're bringing our pal, the track coach from Loyola, from DePaul, from Clemson, from St. Francis, from who knows where, Gordon Thompson, and he'll give us a sports report. So let's get started with a good morning to you, Katie Hogan.
Hey, Michael. Nice to be on your show.
Well, it's still sort of your show. People love it when you come on, and it was good to see you last night. We were at the Network 49 gathering over at the field house, and it was really wonderful. You want to share a little on that?
Yeah, that was it was lovely. I mean, we could always use more bodies, but given the times and everything that's going on, I was pretty impressed with who showed up, and also that that we had some new faces, which was great.
We did. We had a number of new faces, and there were over 30 people came out.
Right. Plus the steering committee members. So it was great. But what was really, to me, most impressive was, you know, between the reports from the working committees, the Environment Committee, the Police and Safety, Community Safety and Police Conduct Committee, which was really the highlight, the Education Committee, which has always done great work, the Politics Committee, which is doing a kickoff Saturday, which I know you and I are going to talk about. I mean, plus the Alderwoman's report, which is a great gift that we get to have every time we have a meeting, that Maria can show up and catch us up on what's going on downtown and locally. I mean, there was a lot of breadth to the meeting. There was a lot of stuff, and that was impressive to me. And we got it all done between, you know, we started a little late at 6:15, and we were all done by 20 to 8.
Yeah, just so people who may not know the Rogers Park scene, we were at the Loyola Fieldhouse, which has some, you know, big giant stands overlooking the baseball fields, and the lake is off to the right. It was pretty beautiful.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous setting.
The Alderwoman Maria Haddon, she really filled us in on a lot of stuff going on downtown, some of which we'll cover today, from the Bears wanting to move and a new stadium, you know, those kind of issues, as well as what's going on with around abortion, what's going on around elections. There's a lot coming up. You know, we have an election in 2022, which is this year, and it's coming up in November. And one of the things that's important about that is that in Illinois, we have 2 seats on the state Supreme Court are open. And why don't you fill us in on that, Katie, those seats that are open, and there's a postcard campaign for people who are watching this on Saturday morning and want to jump right into some action.
Yeah, I mean, if you're only hearing about this on Saturday morning, the call starts at 10 and it's a Zoom call. And I'm not sure that we can manage to get you the link, but you can reach out to us, and everything is going to be taped, so we can send that to you if you get us your email. Basically, we're kicking off our part of a campaign that Citizen Action has been doing already, and we're hooking up with Citizen Action, but this will be the far north lakefront version. So we're not limiting it to our Network 49 members. We're linking with the activists in 50, a couple of whom were at the meeting last night, and folks from 48 who are going to be really activated because they're going to have an aldermanic election in February. So they are practicing politics big time. So we're happy to kick off this postcard writing on behalf, like you said, of the Supreme Court election that's happening November 8th as well. It's really important. Obviously, we've seen what judges can do. They have a lot of power in our lives. And we here in the city, north side of Chicago, do not have someone running. The Supreme Court justices, oddly enough, run by district, and District 2 and 3, which are west and north of us both, each have someone on the ballot running for Supreme Court. We are, of course, trying to emphasize keeping the Supreme Court democratic. Right now it is, and we want to keep it that way, but we need to work to do that. And so one of the activisms that we can do that has been shown to be effective is sincere folks taking the time in their own handwriting to write a message on a postcard to the probable voters in those districts, or to impress intermittent voters to come out because of the importance of that race. So we will take part in that. That's only one of the activities I emphasize bigly. It's only one activity, but for some people, it might be the only thing they can do, and it'll be important for you to do it. A lot of people don't want to do phone banking. They don't like to talk to strangers on the phone. Many people can go out of state and, knock doors in Wisconsin, Iowa, and Michigan, all of which have really pertinent races, specifically Wisconsin for the Senate. But you can, if you can't do that and you can't get on the phone, writing a postcard, writing 20, writing 100 postcards. Believe me, you will feel good once you do it.
Katie, what would be an email that people who are listening could contact us so we could get back to them with links and information? You want to use mine?
We could give them pertpier@aol.com. PRT, it's called PRTPIER@aol.com. That's mine. No one else opens it, and it will designate, folks. And you could put in the topic postcard writing, and we'll get you on the list. So yeah, it kicks off Saturday today when this show is airing. And like I said, it's only part of the activism that people should be planning on engaging in. We're also going to kick off some voter registration.
One of the things that I noticed that the Alderwoman talked about is we had 29,000 registered voters in the 49th Ward. And right now that has dropped to 25,000.
Right.
Now that obviously people are going to be signing up because there are people who have moved, and there'll be emphasis on registering more voters, that kind of thing. But, turning out the vote in the November elections everywhere is really crucial.
Totally.
The future of the country, democracy, the world, et cetera. We can't talk enough about how crucial this is. And for people who are listening, we know that you're already kind of a conscious group, but you got to spread the word to people everywhere and encourage your friends, your relatives living in Alabama and California, wherever they may be, to get out and vote and to really work on this election.
Yeah. So the other good news this week, of course, is that Manchin came around. I'm cautiously optimistic, but if this holds, we can all be very optimistic, because this week was a very big week for us in Washington, D.C. Manchin and Chuck Schumer worked up an agreement yesterday, Thursday. I'm going to actually read some.
It's called the Inflation Reduction Act, and it will sort of replace the Build Back Better. And the headline from the New York Times is the West Virginia Democrat said he had relented and agreed to sign onto a climate, energy, and tax package after returning to negotiations to draft a version that would combat inflation.
Yeah, well said. It includes, taxing the billionaires. It's a big deal. I'd want to encourage people, if they don't already, to check out Heather Cox Richardson. Who puts out something every single day, and she's not usually bombastic, but she's really clear. what happened after this was announced yesterday, in Thursday after evening, was that the Republicans came back and unexpectedly killed the promise to address Comprehensive Toxics Act, which would have provided medical benefits for veterans exposed to burn pits and other toxins during their military service. It had passed the Senate back in June.
By 84 votes.
84 to 14. And this is them being small. They're punishing the military veterans because of climate change and fair tax aspect is looking to get passed. Let's hope they just hang there with that for a little while, because really people need to understand what the Republicans are always voting against by being obstructionists right now. They're voting against climate change assist. They're voting against fair tax assessments. They're voting against help for pharmaceuticals for those that need it most. And now they're toying with the veterans just because they got miffed. I mean, these guys are endless. And this is real important because it's all going to feed into the November election. The other important thing that's happening right now that they reported yesterday is Trump's people are coming out of the woodwork to the January 6th hearings, folks. You heard that, right, Michael?
Yeah, this is good. This is good. Yeah, it seems like, Liz Cheney mentioned last week that the dam is breaking or it has broken. We'll see, right. But it seems like things are moving in a better direction than they were. On a little bit of bad news, I hate to share this, but the monkeypox is spreading, and there continues to be stigma around the LGBTQ plus community, as the media tends to paint the monkeypox as exclusive among gay men. They've also not done a real good job at the vaccine rollout so far. So, not only do we have monkeypox on the rise, but we have a new variant and a pretty heavy hitter among the, what do we call it? The
COVID?
The plague. Yeah,
the plague.
The COVID. Another thing that you could say is good or bad, the Senate passed a $280 billion bipartisan bill to subsidize microchip manufacturing in the U.S. to curb our dependence on the Chinese. That got a lot of, this is good, blah, blah, blah. But Bernie is critical of the bill. That would be Bernie, the senator from Vermont, describing it as giving a big tech a blank check during record high profits. So I'm not sure how to interpret that one, but that was another thing that happened in the Senate. You got any more things on voting in elections? We already covered that, I think.
I think we covered the postcard thing just fine. And I'll come on anytime you want me to continue to talk about activism for the election.
Okay, you'll be on it. Well, you'll be in Ireland next week, so we'll see if we can get you live from Ireland. But let's stick around to the end of the banter here. The next things are on the labor front. Over 200 Starbucks stores have unionized. Over 200, and this has only been in the last year. And as we say that, also reported, I'm not sure where I saw it. Oh, I saw it in the National Restaurant Review. More Starbucks union organizers are fired ahead of elections. According to the Scottsboro, Alabama Starbucks Workers United, 2 workers were fired just 2 days before a store's vote on whether to unionize. So they're playing hard, but people continue to.
I heard the first Trader Joe's to unionize happened this week too.
It did. I forget where, but it did happen.
Yeah, I forget where too.
On the gun front, so let me just share something I came up with. It was on National Public Radio. Gun companies have made billions of dollars since the pandemic began, the report says. $3 billion since the pandemic began in net profits for gun manufacturers. Anyhow, gun companies are making a lot of money, and it's not a good thing. the day that this airs, which is on Saturday, July 30th, is the 57th anniversary of President Lyndon B. Johnson amending the Social Security Act, adding Medicare and Medicaid. This past week.
Yeah, what I put in was the other one. Earlier this week was the anniversary of the start of the 1919 race riot in Chicago. And what I just wanted to hip people to is that there is something called the 1919 Project. You can look it up. They do a bike tour, and they're doing it today, Saturday, in Bronzeville, where they go to various sites significant to the riots, including acknowledging those who died in it. So I would like to go on that bike ride sometime, but I'm not doing it today.
Okay, well, I'm going to only give one more thing. It's we're going to talk about a little bit in the sports report, but Biden has offered notorious Russian arms dealer Viktor Bout in a prison swap for Brittany Grenier and Paul Whelan. So let's hope, I hope that goes through. Okay, Katie, I want to thank you for joining us. You're welcome to stick around if you want. You know who's next. It's our good pal, Kelly Cassidy.
Give her my love. Give her my love.
Okay, I will. And we'll be back with more live from the Heartland for Saturday, July 30th and the week of July 30th. We're back with more live from the Heartland for the week of July 30th, number 112 since the beginning of the pandemic. Oh, I can't wait to get back in the studio. But if we're in the studio, we have to drag people like Kelly Cassidy, our next guest, down to the studio. On Zoom, she could be anywhere, and she's been traveling around. So Kelly, for those of you who don't know, is the Illinois State Representative for the 14th District. That includes Rogers Park, right here by the Lake, Michigan. And Kelly, we were thinking of you last night. We were looking out over the two baseball diamonds at the Loyola Park. And I was thinking of you because I know you have one of your number of kids was playing baseball. What happened last night?
Yeah, so I was sorry to miss the Network 49 gathering last night. That's always a great way to reconnect with beloved neighbors and friends. But my middle guy, Daniel, who is the kid who played baseball at Loyola Park for many, many years, is now on a travel baseball team, which has brought a whole new level of parenting weirdness to my life. And he was playing out in Naperville for a doubleheader where we lost both games. We just, nothing went our way. You know, sometimes the breaks, right? They played well, but the other teams both played way better.
How far do you travel for these club team games?
It's not as bad as some of my friends who literally travel all over the country, but it's usually sort of far-flung suburbs or Kenosha. We've spent a lot of time in Kenosha this summer.
I recently, well, it's been a few months now, I went to Boston for my granddaughters on a traveling team out of New York, and they go play volleyball. This is volleyball, but DC, Hartford, Boston, who knows where. I can't wait to where she travels next. Anyhow,
I know.
You've been, speaking of traveling, you took a vacation, I understand. You were out to a red state. What are you seeing when you are traveling? What are you thinking about? What are you feeling? Any good observations you want to include about America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, and sometimes not so much that?
Not so much, yeah. Well, I spent a few days out in Wyoming over the 4th of July. And I go to this funky little town, which is just basically Rogers Park West, called Centennial. It's about 100 people, maybe a little bit more. I've been going out there for about 30 years, so maybe the population's grown, of folks who are sort of different, right? They embrace the weird like we do.
They're and different a lot than of most of Wyoming, you mean?
Yes, very much so. So they're just outside of Laramie, which is a pretty blue enclave, as blue as it gets out there anyway. And a lot of what I heard both in town in Centennial and the little bit of time I spent in Laramie, a lot of folks, Democrats there, are talking about pulling Republican ballots and voting for Liz Cheney. Lots of and one person really, it really hit home the way they characterized it. It's the most patriotic thing I can do.
I've been thinking about that, and you know, even if they do vote, Democrats jump in and vote for a Republican in the general, would they stick with her or would they go for the Democrat?
That's a fine question. I mean, in a statewide race, you know, very often we do put candidates up, but it would be rather remarkable for a Democrat to win a statewide race in a place like Wyoming. So getting her through the primary is everybody's main focus at this point. And it's going to be tough. It's definitely going to be tough. Early on, when she first broke with the party, there was a lot of talk that she was untouchable. Cheney is royalty in Wyoming, but they're really coming at her hard.
Well, I'm kind of rooting for her. She's been really exceptional and to be honest, wonderful. I'm not, you know, I'd never agreed with her in the past, but she's been a couple of.
She's been amazing.
The two Republicans on that January 6th committee have been great. One of them's from Illinois.
Yeah.
How do you say his name?
Yeah, exactly. Adam Kinzinger.
Yeah.
And you know, Liz the other day in an interview post after one of the hearings said, if she loses her seat over this, it will be worth it. And it's a phrase I've heard twice in my career from elected officials for whom it's real, you know, where the risk is very real. Once was a handful of the first term women a couple of years ago when our caucus didn't want to present the Reproductive Health Act because we were being hysterical about the end of Roe. Newsflash. And a couple of our suburban Target members got up in caucus and said, if I go home over this, it will have been worth it. This is a vote I'm willing to end my career for. And that's not something you hear enough from elected officials. There's not, also, by the way, I could say that a million times over, and I know I'm not going to lose my seat over a vote like this, but, you know, in a district as safe as mine. But for folks for whom it's a real risk, it's an all too rare position to take.
Well,
and it's unfortunate.
There. Is that your dog?
Yeah, Jack just joined me. Big boy, going to take a nap.
Well, Kelly, one of the reasons that I got you on the show, because I always like having you on and seeing you, and we don't bump into each other as much as, well, I saw you a couple of weeks ago. Anyhow, one of the things was that we've talked about you coming out and talking about marijuana legislation. You were instrumental in getting that through the House in Illinois, and you know, eventually it became law. We have a marijuana dispensary in the 49th Ward. It used to be a medical dispensary. I actually went there for the first time, and it was like going to a bank where they had us in line. They were very friendly. Everybody was really chipper. And you couldn't see the product though. All you could see was a little laptop, whatever they call those book things.
Like iPad or whatever.
iPad, yeah. And they had little pictures of reefer.
But the pictures are mostly of the packaging even. You don't know, you don't get to inspect the buds. Yeah.
So that was not only an issue after, I mean, I had been in one in California where it was like all out there. You could see it. I've been one in Washington State. I was even in one up in Canada a couple of years ago. But not only the way it's set up, but also the licensing. And there's a big promise to let people who had been like victims of repression in the anti-marijuana era, getting some special treatment and licensing. Fill us in on what's going on with weed, reefer, mota, smoke in our state.
Absolutely. So to the first point about the regulatory pieces, because that's not actually in the law, that's in the administrative rules, the way the product is handled within the shops. That is a vestige of the medical program, which was really put in place under an administration that hated weed. And so, you know, they do treat it like, you know, some sort of, you know, hazmat product. Whereas when you go into other states, like, you know, there's the bud tenders are really, really bud tenders, right? There are apothecary jars of bud and you get to pick which one you want. You get to smell it, you get to see it. And that has caused some problems here, honestly. You know, a lot of the quality control issues have been, you know, you get home and there's, you know, there's contamination or the product is inferior. And so that's something we do need to address. But you really pointed out that the things that are higher on the priority list to fix, which is achieving the promise that we made in the model that we set out. There's a difference between what happens when you write a bill and how an administration implements it. One significant change between vision and action was the way those tests were scored, the way those licensing applications were scored. The administration chose to go with a pass-fail model. When we created this with this plan to have the social equity points push you over the top and be an added benefit to folks who had been harmed by the war on drugs, what we anticipated is that, you know, that section that was, and I don't remember the exact numbers, that was worth like 25 points or whatever. There would be people who got 2 points. There would be people who got 22 points. There were people that would get 25 points in that section. And same with all of the other sections. Instead, out of a desire to be more efficient, I think the administration chose to do a pass-fail model for each section, which resulted in, for the first time in our nation, perfect scores on a licensing application, and lots of people with perfect scores. And so this massive tie situation that we're all aware of, we've all seen the litigation around it. You know, we knew going in that this is one of the most litigious industries we've ever encountered. So we used all of their prior legal action as the roadmap to draw this process. What we didn't anticipate was this tied score issue. We've now seen last week, was it last week? Was it this week? The days are kind of running together. That we are finally seeing them releasing these dispensary licenses. 147, I think, of the 185 from the lottery. 147, let's pretend that's the right number. It's within 1 or 2 in either direction. Folks who won the lottery, who got an opportunity to get a license from the lottery process, which was the drawings from all the tied scores. Those folks have met the requirement to move on in the licensing phase, in that they've submitted their plans, they've secured a location, those steps have been met. So in the months ahead, we're about to see 147 more retail locations open across the state, which is going to make a huge difference. All of those are folks who meet the social equity requirements. Within the other licensing categories, without the layer of tied scores and litigation, what I see from that is proof of concept of the social equity model. Every licensee in those other categories is a social equity applicant, period. And so we're going to go from, you know, zero diversity in the retail and the cultivation space to a significantly higher level of diversity and greater than you see anywhere else in the country once these folks get up and running. So we've got the craft cultivator licenses that went out earlier this summer. We've got the transport licenses that went out earlier this summer. We've got the infuser licenses that went out earlier this summer. And so those folks are a little closer to opening doors. The dispensary licenses just went out this week, thank God, finally. And hopefully we'll start to see some of those folks open their doors. This now puts them in line for the revolving loan fund that came about as a result of the law to give access to development funds for some of these for these applicants who might not have access to traditional capital markets.
Well, it sounds good. It's a lot to digest, but you're telling me that the social equity people are going to have a chunk of the licenses. It's going to be more diversity in the licensees than any state in the union. And then maybe we'll get to smell the product at some point too. That's another issue.
There's a lot of cleanup on the back end we got to do. You know, we've got to make it, we need to sell medical and adult use in every store. Right now, there's medical dispensaries that are medical only or have both. And all of these new ones are just adult use. They need to be able to serve patients as well, because patients are going too far to find a dispensary. So, you know, we've already got circumstances where the closest dispensary for patients is not one that they can purchase from. It's about to get a lot more so that way because we're going to see these additional dispensaries.
Why do we need the two? If it was legal, why couldn't we just have, you know, retail dispensaries?
Again, well, because we're layering on to that existing medical model. And
Okay.
so, and once, as it matures, they compress. We've seen that around the country as well. But those existing dispensaries that were initially medical only had an opportunity to become both. These new models coming in are going to start out as adult use only. My vision, and I've been demanding this of the regulators for a while, just let everybody sell it.
Well, the one in our ward on it started as a medical and now it's both.
Yeah, and it took them a while, actually. They were like among the last of the medical dispensaries to get their adult use license. I think they had some challenges, and they're trying to sell. And this is something else I will say about all these licenses that have been put out. I'm hearing lots and lots of chatter on the street of people who are selling, you know, social equity licensees who, for any number of reasons, right, are selling their licenses. And usually to the multi-state operators. You know, part of that might be you had to sit for a long time. You maybe put some money out and you can't wait any longer. You can't take that time anymore to get to opening your doors. But my hope is that at least some of these folks are going to hang on to their licenses and become operators. Okay,
enough on the weed. We'll keep our listeners and viewers abreast of whatever's going on as they need to know. Let's switch to another thing that you've been really much involved with, and that is the response to the Roe versus Wade decision by the not so Supreme Court of the United States. Tell us what's going on around abortion here in the state of Illinois, because we've become very popular with a lot of people living in other places.
Absolutely. Yeah, I always start with abortion remains legal in Illinois, and it will as long as there is breath in my body. But a lot of folks are confused, right? You know, folks who maybe don't have their pulse on what's going on with politics hear that Roe v. Wade has been overturned, hear that states are passing bans at 6 weeks, and maybe think that that's going to affect them here. So it's really important every chance I get. Abortion is legal and accessible in Illinois. Don't forget it. But we have done a lot to protect access, not just to abortion, but the full range of reproductive health care. As well as gender affirming care here in Illinois, while states around us are shutting those doors. And while we've always been a destination, you know, we used to see a couple thousand patients a year from around the country, from other states, who would come in for any number of reasons. You know, they live closer to a clinic here than they do in their home state of Missouri, for example, that only had one clinic, or they're afraid because of where they live, people might find out. So it used to be, you know, in the low single digit thousands. After 2019, when states started passing bans, that jumped to about 10,000 a year. Our anticipation is that we're going to see an additional at least 20,000 patients a year in the aftermath of the Dobbs decision. We are already overwhelmed by, our providers are already, you know, going from a 2 or 3 day wait to a 2 or 3 week wait in terms of how far out they're booking appointments. You know, we are working very closely with groups like Chicago Abortion Fund and the Midwest Access Coalition, who are helping to facilitate travel for folks who are in prohibited states. And that means helping them navigate sick leave to get off of work, finding childcare, maybe finding transport, you know, whether that's flights or drives, housing here, lodging here while they're here. All of these things that just are added hurdles to folks who might not have a lot of means anyway. So it's a pretty expensive undertaking to provide that logistical support. I'm grateful to folks who have been stepping up and providing those funds. We need to make more providers available. We need to make more protections for those providers and for the patients who are coming in. Here's a great example. You've got a tollway pass from Missouri or Indiana, and you're coming to Illinois. You might want to pay the toll in cash. You might want to leave that transponder at home, because that data is available to your home state if they want to get wacky about coming after folks. So we're really in the process of thinking through all of those steps. I am leading a working group of the House Democrats to craft legislation to create those protections. We've built the firewall. It remains legal. But now what else do we need to do? What can we anticipate our patients, our providers, and those guests that are coming in from out of state needing? And I'm just going to do a quick shameless plug for the handbook for the Post-Roe America by Robin Marty. Anybody who wants to be part of the solution, get your hands on this book, read it, understand how practical support works, understand how, we don't have to create an anti-network, like don't talk about camping, right? Don't talk about, offering your couch to people on the internet because you're going to get caught up in a sting. Connect with the Midwest Access Coalition, connect with the Chicago Abortion Fund, connect with your local clinic and be a clinic escort. Help call out the fake clinics that are going to blossom like dandelions around the country, around our state, that are going to attempt to entrap patients from other states. There's a lot going on, but we are ready.
What's that book again? What's the book? And where is that? Where is she?
The Handbook for Post-Roe America. It is published by 7 Stories Press.
Let me throw you, we're going to run out of time here because
we always do.
But we're stretching it a little bit. But what's going on with the Democratic Party, with our governor? Is he wanting to run for president? I know he's trying to replace the head of the Democratic Party with someone that he likes better. Now, I'm not saying that's bad or good. Fill us in what you know.
I'm really troubled by that, to be honest with you. We have an amazing leader in Robin Kelly in the Democratic Party of Illinois. She replaced Mike Madigan. She changed the nature of the party completely. And what I've seen over the last week is our governor using the tactics that folks used against those of us who overturned Madigan to try to hold on to power over the party, getting labor unions to pressure folks to switch their vote from Robin Kelly to his preferred candidate. Getting various organizations, Personal PAC jumped into the mix to push. And, this is all based on his assertion that you can't have a member of Congress as a head of the party. Well, that's news to 3 other states who have members of Congress as the head of their party. There are fundraising restrictions. We are accommodating those. We are working through them, and we've raised tons of money and done the work and gotten people engaged in the party. So it's incredibly frustrating, and I would much rather see us focusing on landing the Democratic National Convention instead of showing that we can't get along with each other, that we're a divorced family at Thanksgiving, for pity's sake. It's really annoying. Sorry,
what do you think
soapboxy.
What are the odds on this about Robin Kelly keeping her seat?
The word on the street today is that the governor got enough people to flip to his side to switch the leadership of the party.
And
we'll know tomorrow. We'll know Saturday afternoon.
Yeah,
that's when the vote is.
There was a meeting of the Cook County Democratic Party, I think. Now I used to get invited to stuff like that, but I don't know what that was all about. Did you go?
It was our annual meeting of committeemen. That was when you were the president of the ward organization. You would maybe be proxy for the committee.
When I was.
Yeah. So I was there as our committee person from the 49th ward. It was rather uneventful. We reelected Tony Preckwinkle as the chair of the party. It's really just the annual organizational meeting, which was pretty tame by comparison to what's happening tomorrow or Saturday. Sorry, I always we tape early. What's happening Saturday morning in Springfield.
Well, Kelly, I'm going to do one last thing, and that's to ask you, is there anything close to home, like here in the 49th ward, that you have observed or want to share, or anything else about getting out the vote that you want to encourage all of the millions of listeners and viewers that we have to go out and do?
Well, first and foremost, if you have moved, lots of people move over the summer, be sure to register to vote. Get that done as quickly as possible. Find me. I'm happy to get you registered. There's so much going on in the neighborhood. I'm loving our alfresco spaces. Get out on Glenwood, get out on Jarvis. Support the small businesses in our community and keep them vibrant.
Well, we love you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Love you guys too. Take care.
Thanks for coming on. You are listening to the Live from the Heartland show. We're brought to you every Saturday morning on WLUW 88.7. It gets streamed at WLUW.org, and you can always get it at youtube.com/heartlandmedia. We also go on Spotify and Google Podcasts, and we're on Can TV. So that's good. We're going to take a short musical break, and we'll be back with the one, the only Gordon Thompson, track coach extraordinaire, and now a political reporter. I mean, a sports and politics reporter. Be right back with more Live from the Heartland. Hey, we're back. We're back with more Live from the Heartland, and that gives me great pleasure to bring on my buddy, my traveling companion when we're driving around the Midwest. The one, the only Gordon Thompson, longtime track coach, now teacher, and now a sports commentator on the Live from the Heartland show. Good morning to you, Gordon, and tell us what that was all about, that song we just listened to.
Herb Albert and the Tijuana Brass. The Lonely Bull. So the cascading trumpet music always arouses the spirit of competition in my soul. Love it.
Speaking of competition, you got some really good news. You used to have, you had a lot of excellent runners under your tutelage at Loyola, then DePaul, and then at Clemson, and at St. Francis, and then back at your old high school in Newark, Delaware. One of the people that you coached and I met and really liked is Mark Burns. And you got some really exciting news about Mark. Tell us about Mark and what else is important.
Well, Mark, a Loyola University graduate and a great coach unto himself, former LU coach, Loyola, then Bradley. And he married another Loyola runner, Elena Chrisman, and together they produced a great family of 4 sons. And their oldest of 4 sons, Connor, just broke the illustrious 4-minute mile earlier this spring as a high school junior. So us old timers remember Jim Ryan, and he was just phenomenal. The first high schooler to break 4 minutes while in high school. Well, Connor Burns broke Jim Ryan's junior year record, running a 3:58.83 in St. Louis. So just a phenomenal performance. And it's always great to have the Loyola family celebrate excellence and to continue the trend of great milers all the way through. Connor more than likely will not be attending Loyola because of national image and likeness, NIL money. He'll probably go big time. I even asked Mark if he'll go pro right out of high school, which that's what I think he'll more than likely do.
Where does he go to high school?
He's in outside of Columbia in Missouri.
His dad coaches at University of Missouri now, right?
Right. Mark has just resigned from that position now, is on to a good career selling treadmills, making a good, more lucrative.
Let me ask you, Gordon Thompson, speaking of track coaches, and you were always my favorite track coach, even more so than whoever I had in high school when I threw a limp shot put.
It's impossible to throw a limp shot put. There's 16 pounds of iron.
It was only 12 pounds in high school, but you told me there's a new track coach at University of Illinois who is quite a hot shot, and track fans may want to know about this.
Yeah, there is a hot shot now at University of Illinois, and his name is Petros is his first name, and he's a Greek national, and he's got unbelievable lineage of success. At most recently at the University of Georgia, he had 2 national team champions, one on the women's side, one on the men's side. And he's really an incredibly intelligent coach in that he'll score in events that others cannot, like the technical events. So that's how he mastered his national championships at Georgia, is scoring in events that others could not: heptathlon, decathlon, technical throws events. So look out for University of Illinois in the near and upcoming future on the track team. They'll really hit it big. But back to the Burns mile real quick.
Okay.
Loyola also had a sub 4-minute miler in that same race, Loyola University. And my good friend Gavin Kennedy coached this new Rambler to sub 4-minute mile expertise. And Gavin was a great runner for me at DePaul, and had a phenomenal lineage at Wisconsin, and now is back at Loyola, going to get the Ramblers on the highlight.
Oh, so he's a new coach at Loyola.
Yeah, Gavin Kennedy.
All right. So let's just stick with track and field. And I always like it when I can figure out my my new high-end TV and how I can find different things on it, like the Peacock channel. And I did watch a lot of the World Track and Field Championships. And I know I kept texting you. I don't think you were probably asleep because you didn't respond, but I was excited about a number of these races. And I know you did observe and you did study up on what happened. How about a little report on the World Track and Field Championships? Because there was some really good energy running around that track.
Hey, it was out in Eugene, Oregon, which is supposed to be Track Town, USA. Michael, you and I went to a national championships in Eugene, and at the same location, but a totally different track and stadium.
So it was a funky old. It was great, wooden, with this big wooden structure, and then now it's just modern-esque.
Well, that great wooden structure that was decommissioned was built by the local loggers. The logging community was thriving back in the 1950s and really had a great, phenomenal, totally wood stadium that was classic in many regards. That was replaced by this very big glass, glitzy structure. But Tracktown USA let us down, and the local fans did not come out. The stadium, every night, there was 9 days of competition every day, did not fill up. It never sold out. So I think the locals are forgetting Tracktown and are finding it prohibitive maybe to go. But the competition itself was absolutely spectacular. I always like it, the World Championships, because it's not as political as the Olympic Games. Athletes still represent their country, same as the Olympic Games. And I always like it when a particular country will sweep a particular event. Well, we had a couple swept events of Jamaica women going 1, 2, 3 in that women's 100. And the spectacularness of one country, the black and green, just racing across the finish line, dominant. 1, 2, 3 was something to behold. They came back in the 4x100 relay, and the U.S. women whipped their butts. You would think getting first, second, and third in the open, they automatically got the relay. But the baton reigns king in that 4x1. So you got to have great stick passes. Well, men's 100-meter, U.S. went 1, 2, 3. We swept the 100 and swept the 200. Yes, U.S. is back to Speed City, and we got it together for the best explosive athletes in the world. 1, 2, 3.
How about the shot put? Because that was something else too.
We swept the men's shot put 1, 2, 3. Hey, 2 guys threw that 16-pound ball over 75 feet. That's huge. That used to be, I didn't quite see that extension, Michael.
Well, it doesn't work. That's where I had the operation. I got to lift it up. This one goes.
It's the one-handed shot put, not the two-handed shot put that we participate in at the world level. So yeah, way to go on having 2 guys over at 75 feet. And the other really hot stuff that was going on was a new world record in the women's 400 hurdles. That's 10 jumps over 2 feet 6 inches high. And this woman, Sydney McLaughlin, ran 50.93, Well, you think of going over 10 times over an obstacle and still running 50 seconds. There's got to be about a 2.5-second differential to going over the hurdles to a flat 400. Hey, that puts her at a 47-second 400 meters. That could run on most college track teams as for the men. So she's just knocking it out of the ballpark, Sydney McLaughlin. Other big deals were, I think, Canada winning the 4x100. There's where America's 1-2-3 sweep in our 100 meters did not serve us well with our 4x1. Stick passes, as usual, came into play for the U.S., and the lack of practice time with the hot shots is costing us. But hats off, chapeau to Canada for really putting together some clean sticks and getting the 4x1 gold.
Gordon Thompson, we're gonna run out of time if I don't do a quick firing away of a few things that I want you to share. Let's look at the Tour de France, the bicycle race that just happened with the men is happening with the women now. Tell us about that.
Hey, the ladies have their first their first women's Tour de France stage. They don't, the men just finished with an unbelievable battle between two young stars, one from Denmark and another from Slovenia. But now with these women's Tour de France, Sunday, tune in Sunday to CNBC, Chicago guys and gals. You're going to see a great finish for this women's Tour de France. Marianne Vos is right now from the Netherlands. The Dutch are crazy about biking, and you can see the enthusiasm is phenomenal. Turn into CNBC on Sunday to see La Planche de Belles Filles, which means the beautiful ladies of the plank. Well, this stage, history goes way back. I'll let you research it on what that means on the internet. It's a sordid story. Too bad for the girls back in the time, back in the 1500s, where this La Planche de Belles Filles got its name. What else you got for me, Michael?
What about Brittany Grenier? We heard some news that there might be a swap going on.
Yeah, prisoner swap. We've got our heart out to Brittany, who's incarcerated in Moscow, Russia. Hey, the good news is the Russians let her wear her own clothes because I'm sure they don't have any prisoner garb that could fit her. So she's been wearing her own Jimi Hendrix t-shirts, her own clothing, Black Lives Matter hoodie. And it's been poignant seeing her on camera in her own clothes. There's going to be a prisoner swap, not an even deal whatsoever. Here's Brittany incarcerated for cannabis while going through the Moscow airport. And the swap would be this Russian arms dealer who's been getting arms all to the wrong people all over the world. So he's a heavy hitter, has got his own little Air Force where he was able to fly under the radar, literally, to deliver arms to the bad guys. And we're going to swap with Brittany Grenier with this guy, Victor Bout. I don't think it's an even trade, but to get her home would be phenomenal.
We're rooting for that. And let's do one more, maybe two more. Let's quick one on the expansion of the Big Ten.
Oh, Big Ten yeah. The Big Ten just added our Los Angeles darling universities of USC, University of Southern California, and UCLA, University of California, Los Angeles. Those are the two best schools in the Pac-8 conference. And the Big Ten just got them, and they're due to come into the Big Ten conference in a couple of years, or really next year. This is all about money. And now the Big Ten conference really spans coast to coast from Los Angeles to New Brunswick, New Jersey with Rutgers. So hats off to the Big Ten to expansion. It was all motivated by the Southeastern Conference getting Oklahoma and Texas and Oklahoma leaving the Big 12 and coming to the.
Well, I'm still rooting for the, like the teams in the Midwest.
Well, hey, Pat Fitzgerald said it best. He's welcoming this new change. You bring it on, Pat says. And he's been a long time, now 17 years at the head of Northwestern. And I worked at Northwestern for 1 year while Pat prior to Pat coming there. And I found it not a very comfortable environment for athletics. So hats off to Pat for doing
well. They've certainly built a lot of facilities since that time. Anyhow, Gordon, one last little thing. We're going to talk about this more at length, but any little take on the rumors of, well, certainly here in Chicago, people know that Lori Lightfoot is proposing a whole redo of Soldier Field, hoping to keep the Bears from moving to Arlington Heights, where they're wiping out the great racetrack out there. Any take on this? Short view on it. What do you got to say?
I'm one of the few outsiders that's a Lori Lightfoot fan, but she blew it in this case. She reacted way too late and was not proactive on this. She should have been doing this same thing of offering a revamping of Soldier Field probably 2 years ago or 3 years ago when the initial talk was. Hey, the Bears already purchased the Arlington Park, or got purchased it, or soon to be, for a steal, $197 million. They're going to do it. The Bears are moving. Get it through our thick heads. The Bears are not staying in Soldier Field. And they could make any kind of renovations of Soldier Field, but the Bears aren't going to enjoy them. I think they should still go ahead and make those renovations, bring in Major League Soccer to this Soldier Field, make it a great environment. But the Bears have made up their mind. They're going to develop that space, maybe hold on to the racetrack, because that could be lucrative property with new NASCAR racing on the electric level. So who knows what's going to happen, and the Bears would have their own financial destiny in-house.
Well, we're going to have you back. I hope to see you before, but we're going to have you back on the show in a month or so with another sports report. Thank you, Gordon Thompson. Keep doing good in the world. And for everyone else out there, let me just share, if you're living in Chicago, I will be on Sundays on my front porch with my photographs. Come look and see. And you've been listening to the Live from the Heartland show. You can get it, as I said earlier, on WLUW 88.7. You can get it at WLUW.org. Those are at 9 o'clock on Saturday, Tuesday, and Friday. We're also on CAN TV. We're on Spotify and Google Podcasts. And I want to thank everybody who helps make the show possible. Emilio Davis, who's right here with me being the engineer, Lynn Orman Weiss, and Monty Warren at Loyola, Katie Hogan, whenever she comes on the show. And don't forget, do good in the world, because the world certainly needs all the good that you do, that I do. There's a lot to do. And don't forget, we have an election coming up in November. Lots to do before then. All power to the people. See you next week.